Coming up in this episode of the KickCast, we tag some butterflies, the pan gets Bluetooth, and we have a hullabaloo of a time. So sit back and relax. It's time for the KickCast. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the KickCast, the podcast where we go out and find some great projects and we let you know if you should backtrack or sack them. I'm Ktdata, and joining me is a man who leads by example and has convinced me that I should not marry unless they're in some kind of new media digital production. The one and only Drew Tyler. How are you doing today, Drew?
If that's all I teach you, then that's golden. Yes, find somebody who is in production and knows what you do so they can appreciate it. How you doing, man? Good?
I am doing good. And the reason I say that, Drew, is because you seem to be one of the happiest people I know. You know, and
I think I am.
You have a wonderful family and everything, so I'm just envious of that.
You know, I was just commenting to one of my students today about how much I think he gets done because he seems to have a project or a new, tinker or something all the time. And I'm like, I want to see you in 5 years when you have a wife and kids, and I want to see where all that energy, all that ADD, where does it go? So I kind of feel like I have a happy life because I use my ADD to like make other people happy, and happy life, happy wife.
Yeah.
Wait, vice versa. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So this is actually episode 49. So if you guys have never seen this episode before, first of all, welcome. Our next episode's probably the big 5-0. So we should probably plan something big.
Yes. Can we have a cake? I just want a cake.
Oh,
50 episodes is huge.
Yes, we should have a cake. 50 episodes in 3 years, 2 years.
Yeah.
I've lost count.
Over two.
It's gotten to the point where I can't even count anymore. So
awesome. That's awesome.
All right. So before we jump into our projects tonight, let's cover some news. So, Drew, do you remember in our last episode when we talked about the coolest and how it was creeping up on the Pebble?
Yeah, it was really close. It was like within like 300,000 of taking over the all-time highest funded project.
Yeah. So, in between our last episode, the coolest finally beat the Pebble on there, and I thought
it had been there forever, right? Pebble had been in top forever.
Yes, the Pebble was there for 862 days.
That's nearly, I don't do math. That's a long time.
That's like 2 years and a half.
2.5 years. Yeah. Wow. And it was beat out by a cooler that had failed its first time around. Yes. Let that be a lesson to you.
So what I wanted to do on this one is that Kickstarter actually put up a blog post that shows you the histories of the number ones. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I wanted to cover a few of them that I thought were, a pretty good landmark things. Of course, the first number one was New York Makes a Book. That was pretty cool. You can see how old it is because that's an iPhone 3GS or like a 3, one of the original iPhones on there. And that one was, look at this. That raised $3,329.
Oh, wow.
That was number one in 2009.
Huh.
That's kind of crazy.
That is wild.
And then we had some other projects. I hadn't heard of Kickstarter yet. The first time I actually heard of Kickstarter was Diaspora. Do you remember Diaspora, Drew?
It was, yeah, vaguely, but I don't think I got on for a while after that still.
It was the first project that I heard about, and this was supposed to be the Facebook killer. It's supposed to federate social media into, so everybody owns their own hub, so they can't just shut down and do that. So that was the first I've heard of it, was Diaspora, and they raised $200,000. And that was 2010. So in about a year, it's kind of crazy how much that's changed in a year. They got to 210. And then, we have some other projects going through. I mean, I actually have one of these TikToks. But that wasn't the first project I backed, oddly enough. But
interesting.
The first one to reach the $1 million was the Elevation dock.
And is that just an iPod dock for the iPhone 4?
Pretty much. It was a smartphone dock. It raised $1,464,000.
I wonder why.
And this is the funny thing is, it only lasted 6 hours. Because you know what came right after this?
Oh, no.
6 hours later, after being number one, Double Fine Adventure comes in, and they raise $1 million in one day.
That makes sense.
Yeah, they ended up with $3 million on there.
The power of having an engine revving and ready to go when you launch the Kickstarter.
Yes.
I mean, this one had a fan base ready to go.
Yeah, this had a fan base on there. And they're like, okay, this is probably going to last a while, right? No. 65 days later, this little thing called the Pebble Watch comes out. I mean, right here. Pebble Watch still on my wrist.
Yes,
still
and mine.
on my wrist right there. Oddly enough, this was the third project I backed. It wasn't even the first. Third project I backed on there, they ended up raising $10 million.
Which is a far cry.
Yes.
What did Double Fine do? You said $1 million or so
Double
in a day.
Fine, so they raised $1 million one day, but they raised $3 million in 65 days.
That's wow.
So the Pebble in
triple that.
In let's see, or not 65 days. How long was their project?
It was on top for 65
months.
days.
Yeah, it's about 2 months on there. And the Pebble was about 4 months, and it raised $10 million.
Wow.
It's nuts on there. And that, like we said earlier, was king for almost 2.5 years. And finally, the coolest cooler on its second try came and, ousted the Pebble Watch at $10,394,000.
Still blows my mind. I don't know how he did it.
He wanted $50,000. $50,000.
Wow. Amazing. I mean, a lot of those were tech type of things, and that was kind of the early crowd of crowdfunding. But I think it's kind of, wouldn't quite call it a tipping point, but at this point we're seeing a lot more people active on crowdfunding, at least understanding what it is. That type of crowd that would be into a cooler and more functionality has obviously come to its aid. So let's see how long it lasts.
Yeah. So hopefully, well, not hopefully, but we'll see what the next big project's going to be. Maybe a winter themed one or something like that. I'm really curious to see.
What's going to raise over $10 million in winter? We got to come up with it first.
Amish furnaces.
Brilliant.
We're going to streamline them. Instead of making them big, they're going to be flat because that's what people want, right?
That's what people want. What else we got in the news? Anything else?
All right. So, we like to cover all sorts of crowdfunding and stuff, and YouTube finally has jumped into the crowdfunding world, and everybody's going like, wait, what? So if you guys have watched Twitch TV before, you notice that some of the broadcasters have subscriptions that you can subscribe to, and you won't get ads on there, and sometimes you get bonus content and custom emoticons and stuff. YouTube has finally jumped onto this. They actually announced this earlier this year at VidCon.
Oh, right.
On there, but now they finally launched it. They're calling it fan funding. You can get it in the US, Australia, Japan, and Mexico on there. The way it works is YouTube takes a little bit of the top off, but most crowdfunding sites do that.
Yeah.
They take about 21 cents base and then 5% of whatever else is on there. So $5, they would take
21 cents plus 5%.
Yeah, plus 5% on there, which is not that much if you think about it. Kickstarter and Indiegogo charge about 3 to 5%, depending on what you pick, and then they charge they charge 5% on, and then they charge a 3 to 5% for credit processing fees. YouTube doesn't take the credit processing fees.
Interesting.
So that's really interesting, especially for all those people who watch YouTube channels and are always like, well, how can I help support the show? Help you get new equipment upgrades and stuff. And, people have been going to Patreon. They've been setting up, PayPal donation buttons and stuff. So this is actually really helpful to have it just built in there. Maybe we should do this and see if people will kick us some money.
Right. Really, it's just almost like soliciting for donations. Instead of hearing like, comment, subscribe, now we're going to hear like, comment, subscribe, and donate.
Yeah.
And it seems ideal. It seems like YouTube's kind of caught on and said, if Patreon can do this with our content in a way, we can do it ourselves to generate good content or help people make revenue. Yeah. This is good.
And Google likes it because they're making you use Google Wallet, so that means more people on Google Wallet, the better, because it's a service they want people to use.
Makes sense. Cool.
On there. All right. The last piece of news is a really, really interesting on there. If you guys don't know who Yancey Strickler is, he is this current CEO and one of the co-founders of Kickstarter. And he did an interview with CNN, Money, because, money talks, right?
Money, listen to my money talk.
And it's like a 3-minute interview, which is awesome, great. Whoever edited it didn't cut at the end, right? Because there's like 10 seconds of you staring at the interviewer and she's not saying anything. I thought that was funny. But
the sloppy edits.
Yeah. But what it is there's a couple things that he kind of mentioned in there that I thought was really, really interesting. One of the things is that they asked, what do you see in the future for Kickstarter? Do you see, politicians and stuff starting to use it? And he's like, no, we're still going to keep this for the artists and for the creators or the makers, people who have ideas and want to make something physical or, a product out of it on there. So that's always a good thing. And he says he wants to see the site grow, but he also wants to see the world change along with it. You know, having the thought process of the world a little bit more like Kickstarter, where people can think, hey, I have this idea. I don't really need to get it validated by all these gatekeepers. I can go straight to the consumer and see if they really want it or not. And I love that, because that is why I was drawn into the into Kickstarter in the beginning and crowdfunding, was because this idea that there's no longer a guy holding you back.
Right.
You know?
Somebody to say, oh no, that's not going to work in our store. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And then the one line that caught all the news is because they asked them about some of these projects who are late in delivering their stuff.
Right. Because that's kind of like the popular world. That's the buzz that you hear in crowdfunding, is like, oh, sure, you can put your money in, but more often than not, you're not getting it for a long time. There's a lateness factor.
Yeah. And he says lateness is not failure. And I totally agree with him that lateness is not considered failure. Lack of transparency and lack of communication, that is where the failure is, in my opinion, on there. So if you guys are running projects, just be transparent. Just, communicate with your backers. And even if it's late, most of the time they'll be more understanding than just not saying anything at all and wondering, oh crap, what are we going to do now?
Right. A good example of that was the coin debacle. Yes. I mean, coin is very late already, but again, they're still starting to ship. But then recently they sent out, got everybody's hopes up and said, your coin is coming.
Psych!
But it's going to cost you more money and you only get a beta product. So not only are they late, but they didn't even let people know until a email came that said, you get to pay us money to be a part of Coin, and you're getting the beta version, so it's kind of ready, but you're going to help us test it. Well, the nice thing there is that they made good on, they made it right, because there was a lot of complaints. There was a huge amount.
I was borderline canceling mine.
Yeah, and so it was interesting to see how quickly another email came back out and said, okay, we heard you loud and clear. We apologize. That's not the way we went for that to go down. So here, let us explain why and how, and this is what we'll do to make up for it. So they played it right, because it was that transparency after the fact.
And the one thing they still got to fix is their communication, because throughout this whole process, they never said they were behind until now, which is big.
Yep.
So be honest with your users, and most people will understand.
Yep.
So those were the news, Drew.
That is news
on there. So I wanted to ask you on this. You have kids.
I do.
On there.
I do.
So how many of the shows and movies and things that your kids watch, how many of those are now 3D animated instead of the traditional 2D animated?
I would say just about every one of them. We keep our kids pretty locked down to PBS type shows, and so there's a lot of them that are 3D animated, or the what do they call it, the motion capture type of stuff that then, like Sid the Science Kid. So every once in a while they'll pull out like Woody Woodpecker or something. And I'll be like, that, my friends, that is some true animation right there.
Yes. So our first project of the night is actually called Hullabaloo, and it is a project that is looking to preserve 2D animation. Note how I say 2D animation, not like CG animation. What I'm talking about is like old school, hand-drawn, but on a tablet, on a computer, hand-drawn animation, Aladdin, Lion King, Pocahontas, all those old Disney shows. You don't see that kind of animation style anymore, because we've all kind of transitioned to this 3D, and which is great, but there's just something, about that flat kind of world and feeling and the colors and how they interact that you do not see in a lot of projects anymore.
Hullabaloo, that's a fun word too.
Yeah, so Hullabaloo decides to do that and combines steampunk. Everybody loves steampunk these days, right?
Good choice.
I mean, and so the whole idea is that he wants to make some shorts that uses 2D animation techniques. And you're probably like, all right, who's this guy? And where in the world does he think he has the experience for this? This guy is named James Lopez, and he and his team have worked on some little titles like The Lion King, Pocahontas, The Proud Family, Tarzan, The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Frozen, Enchanted, Emperor's New Groove, Wreck-It Ralph, Paperman, Prince of Egypt, and more. And, these guys have worked for all these big animation companies out there, and now they want to make these shorts, kind of using the old school style of that. And what I love about this is that not only is he working on making a project to create in 2D style, he wants to pass down this trait to people. So one of the levels is actually you can take a class and he will be teaching this class on like techniques and things you can do for 2D animation. So, and it's about the same price of a class that you would normally take, but some of the money goes to this and helps fund it.
That's not bad at all.
So that's what I mean. I mean, I love it. What do you think about this, Drew?
I like 2D animation. I like the steampunk. I love shorts. There's a lot to love about this project. It's reaching in for a little almost sentimentalism, I guess, in a way, to say, hey, if you loved growing up with this, if you love this, let's try and preserve it for something. So I think they've got a great idea going forward, and I'd like to see where it goes. I guess part of it is distribution. Do they talk about where they plan to distribute?
Digital distribution. He wants to make this as a web series. So he's he's not the type of person who's going like, well, we got to distribute on DVD. He's smart enough to know that, hey, this is the format that we need to release, and this is our way of reaching out to the people, is digital distribution on there. So he's hoping that if we can get it to enough funding past the stretch goals, he can make this a series, and hopefully one day maybe even a feature film.
Cool. Very cool. So for me, I'm definitely thinking this is a back for me. I love the idea. I love where he's going with it. It's a great idea.
Yeah. For me, it is a totally back. I love the art style. I love the experience behind these guys. I mean, all these shows that I just mentioned, that's what I watched growing up. And when I saw this, it just, all the memories kind of went back. I'm like, oh, I remember this. I miss this on there. And, and just like Stooley, he says, he's already a backer of it. It's on Indiegogo. So for all you haters who think we only cover Kickstarter, no, we cover Indiegogo projects too.
Oh yeah.
So it's a back for me. My only problem is I don't know if I want to back the $250 level or $125 level.
What is always your problem?
What do you think, Drew? What do you think?
For those of you who have discretionary income, go big. Go big.
I'm so like into this belief of crowdfunding that I feel like I need to give as much as I can.
You are single-handedly keeping it all afloat.
Plus, look, the $125 one, which I'm looking at, comes with an activity book, comes with the digital distribution, an animation drawing that they use in the film, which is kind of cool, and steampunk glasses. Can't go wrong with steampunk glasses.
You're set. No. What's the other one?
Or the $250 one comes with all the signed prints, everything in the $125 one, and a hardbound art book of the art used in this. There's something about this art style of just, the steampunk art style and everything that just drew me in, where I'm like, I like that. And I wouldn't mind having it physical hand. So, I don't know.
That's a tough call.
So, I don't know. What do you think, Drew?
There's so many projects that you should be putting your money into. I'll tell you about one next where you should maybe split the difference. Do your 125 there and then save 125 for the next one.
All right, you guys who are watching, please send me a tweet, email me, leave a message on our Facebook. Do I go for the 250 or 125? At KickCast, at Ktdata, send it our way.
Hashtag help KT spend his big money.
Spend KT's money. Hashtag spend KT's money. Use that. I am going to pay attention to that. All right, Drew. So that is Hullabaloo, and our next project, I think. Didn't you just barely hatch a few monarch butterflies on here?
I did, and that's why this one is a little bit dear to my heart. But I came across this one as I was looking for projects and exploring a bunch of them. This is the monarch butterfly tagging project. It was actually a staff pick this week, like just today, I believe, which is kind of cool. I was hoping it would see a little bit more traction because of being a Kickstarter staff pick. But let me tell you about it. The monarch butterfly tagging project is simply somebody in Florida that would like help tagging monarch butterflies. Most people probably know, these are the beautiful orange butterflies that I love. I grew up raising monarchs. We do it for school. My parents would go out and find monarch caterpillars and eggs, and right before school, because they were both school teachers, they would find them, bring them home, would put them in a tank, and every year we would hatch butterflies at the beginning of the school year. So I, for years, with my kids now, have been looking for them, and for 2 years prior to this year, I could not find any monarchs like flying around or like caterpillars, anything. So this year, my parents found one up in Idaho, brought it back for us to raise. I guess you keep feeding the caterpillar, who eats voraciously, and then he goes into his chrysalis, and 2 weeks later it comes out a butterfly. So we did that one on our own, and then while we were looking for milkweed to feed our caterpillar, we found yet another caterpillar. So it was perfect timing. So that's why this one's dear to my heart. But there's somebody in Florida who would like to tag butterflies and help kind of learn more about their patterns. Basically, monarchs take many generations to go from their wintering areas down in Mexico up. They kind of travel up through the Rockies, up around the East Coast, a little bit on the West Coast, and they take 4 generations. So monarchs fly, have it, lay their eggs, hatch. A few weeks later, they fly some more, and they have this pattern that they go up and into some parts of Canada even, and then the next, like the final generation, flies all the way back down to Mexico. So for me, there's this mystery to it that somehow they're finding their way, like 4 generations later, they just know how to get back home. So to me, it's amazing. The project is looking for $1,000, so it's a simple, easy goal. I would do the same thing. This is a project that I would do, but he's looking for information to help tag monarchs so that he can track them. And I should say it's he or she. I can't tell because it's just says it's by the Monarch Butterfly Help. But the funding that they're looking for is to be able to tag 100 butterflies. That's the goal, tag 100 butterflies. And the funds are going to be spent on more milkweed to attract the females, to support the caterpillars, to kind of get more attention. Monarchs, as they fly around, are looking for big patches of milkweed. It's the only thing they'll eat. And so they're becoming less and less prevalent, these patches of milkweed, mostly because of the farming methods and other things. We're losing them, which is probably why I haven't seen monarchs for years. So this person is kind of doing their part to make a monarch-free zone, I guess, a place where, not monarch-free, a free zone for monarchs. So I guess that's why this project struck me, is it's not your normal project. It's not like, hey, I'm making an album, or hey, help us film a movie, or get this tech project out there. This is almost a humanitarian effort without the humans. Have I missed anything, KT?
So yeah, everybody's asking how they're tagged. They're using these specialized tags that are light enough to not impede the monarch's flight on there.
Something unknown about what most people don't know about monarchs is that their wings are much more robust than most moths or butterflies. It's not like the powder will come off on your hands. They still have that same kind of scale, but it's much more robust. You can actually pick up a monarch by its 2 wings and pinch them, and they're going to be able to fly just fine. So they're doing these little stickers that are really lightweight that have a tagging numbering system on them. This has been done by Monarch Watch for a number of years. But there is an entity out there that provides tags that you can buy a kit, get the tags, and tag your own monarchs, and that's what this particular person in Florida wants to do. They want to basically amplify this effort. Because for me, I'd be like, okay, let me buy a couple of tags, and for 2 monarchs a year, I'll try and help you track them. But this guy wants to do 100 because he has that many in that area and wants to just learn about it. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's a unique type of project.
Yeah, I love how there's always this question mark in Florida. And it's always Florida, guys. Watch the news. You'll understand. And I know Winston lives down in Florida. What is with Florida and question marks on there? So yeah, for me, the only thing I am curious about is how these tags are going to be tracked, or how are they going to recover the tags?
And this is also a question mark. So the tags, you stick them on the butterflies, you send them off on their way, and it relies on somebody finding them in Mexico at that final mating place. Out of the millions of butterflies that come back there, finding the ones with the tags, being able to catch them, and then type that into Monarch Watch. There's only one site, I believe it's called Monarch Watch, that's recording all the information. So everybody that's kind of helping promote this idea is funneling it back to one site. But for me, it's almost in the way of statistics. This guy aiming to put 100 tags out there, I'm all about helping him reach that goal, knowing that he sees way more monarchs than I do. So at least there's a better chance of something getting tagged back down in Mexico. Like I said, I'll tag 1 or 2 here, may or may not ever see the light of day. So.
Yeah. So for me, this is a track project, just because I'm always kind of, the scientist in me kind of kicked in. I'm like, well, what's the study design? How do you know where all this thing is? What are they going to do with the data? How do you normalize for all this? And this, this may be stuff that they've already figured out, but this is kind of a tip for project creators: is that remember, you're talking to the uninformed sometimes. So and
that's a good point for this project specifically, because while they have their own website for Monarch Help, you have to dig a little bit to to realize, and I already knew about monarchwatch.org, the other one that's like the main site for the research part of it. And so this wasn't like, it's not right out there where he's saying, oh, the tags are available to everybody already. The project's going on already. I just want to do it for the data here in this area. So I think that could be a little bit more prevalent. But for the price, for me, for the amount that he's trying to get and for the amount that it would take, I feel like this would be money well spent because of my passion for butterflies. That's kind of where it's a back for me, because I feel like this is, if I put $25 into his pockets, I almost wish it were kind of an Indiegogo style where he'd get money no matter what.
With the flexible funding on
with
there.
Flexible, right? Because I feel like he's still got a month to go, $1,000 goal. Hopefully, maybe a staff pick. This will trickle out to other Monarch lovers. But for me, it's a back. I want to get in there and make sure that my money's out there helping plant more milkweeds. It's something that I would do if I could, but certain states have certain laws about what kind of milkweed you can plant. So,
all right.
Anyway,
so
there you are.
That is the Monarch butterfly. I forgot to ask you, was yours a back or track for the Hullabaloo?
Hullabaloo was a back for me as well.
All right. So for this last one, Drew, I'm sorry, this one does not even apply to you because you actually know how to cook.
Yeah, I know. I have my own comments on this one,
but for people like me who barely can boil water without burning the pan, I maybe it's the science taking over. I can do chemistry, but when it comes down to this, it just doesn't work for me, because when I'm doing chemistry and mixing chemicals, I have thermometers, I have gauges, things that will give me real-time information so I can adjust accordingly. And cooking, it's just like,
if it smells good,
West.
Eat it.
Yeah. So
it smells good, eat it.
So what happens is this project is called Smarty Pans, and it bringing the things that I need personally to be able to cook something successfully into the pan. So it is actually a pan that contains a bunch of sensors in it, and it will give you real-time data on the food you're cooking. And then when you pair it with the mobile app that they have, the mobile app has 1,000 recipes in there. On there, it can tell you if you're cooking the meal correctly or not. So it can tell you,
my wife can tell you that.
It's too hot. She's not here. She's over there at your house. I can't afford to drive an hour every day just to make sure I know how to cook right.
Am I doing this right?
So it has all this information. I like how the app will tell you if it's too hot, too cold, or you put too much in there, because it can tell weight too. The sensors are weight, humidity, and temperature, and then it also has a recipe, which is and a metric mode, so it can just tell you the raw data. I mean, I probably could do it without the recipe, but I like how it has a timer and everything. Tells you, it should only be in there for about 10 minutes, because that's usually one of the biggest problems. Is like, is it done, or do I pull it off, or should I leave it on a little longer? Usually I ended up leaving it a little bit longer.
Yeah.
So that's usually my problem. On there, and so it uses Bluetooth 4.0. It charges in about an hour, and the guy says it lasts about a month on there.
Wow.
For me, the only thing that I'm really curious about is the durability and the accuracy of the sensors. Because you're heating things up repeatedly and cooling them down. He says they're sealed, but that's where I'm not sure. If it's sealed too well, how are the sensors getting the temperature and the humidity and everything correctly? But if it's sealed not enough, I have a feeling the heat's going to eventually degrade all the sensors on there, and that might be a problem.
Yeah, that's a good question. And does he explain it all in the post?
No, he doesn't. But what I do like about it is the app that tells me I need to adjust these parameters, which is always good, because I don't always have a human being around to make sure I don't burn something or kill something.
The video does a great job of showing off the app and showing kind of how it works. So yeah, I think it's pretty.
It's okay. So what are your thoughts? As somebody who actually knows how to cook, am I just going down the wrong path?
No, I think this is great for certain people that maybe want to get into cooking more, because it would be really nice to be able to look it up, to follow along with a meal and be like, okay, how many ounces of X do I have in here? Okay, I mean, I'd love to not dirty up all my pans, because when I cook and I'm looking at ounces, I'll pull out my digital scale and I'll weigh something, and that dirties one plate before I dump it into the pan or something else. So there's nice to be able to weigh it there in the pan, to be able to calculate all the other things that it calculates, the temperature, not only the temperature of the weight, but doesn't it also do calories to some level? And
sort of. I think that's with the recipe tracking, where if you cook it exactly to the specs, they'll know how many calories.
It'll know exactly what's going on, right?
Yeah.
As somebody that cooks, and I think my wife cooks and I enjoy her cooking. And so to spend time with her, I often cook with her. She still tells me how to do it. So that's all I need. No, she does awesome. What gets me on this one, I think, is that 1,000 recipes, I don't know. I live with somebody that has like magazines and books upon books of recipes and blogs. I mean, daily we're checking blogs and posting things. I guess, it says preloaded with 1,000 recipes, so maybe there's a chance that you can put more of your own in there or pull them off of like food.com. If there's some sort of integration or API where you'd be like, put that recipe into this app, that would be kind of a fun next step for them. For me, it's still kind of a novelty, but I'd love to see it in action. I'm geeky like that, so I'd still love to see it in action. Price point is kind of painful for me as well. I have a hard time spending.
It's a little. It's $169. I don't know how much normal pots and pans go, but can't you get like a full set for that much?
And that's it. That's it. Like in my married life, 13 years, I have bought a set of pans to start with, and one set about 5 or 6, 7 years ago, and they're going strong, and we love them. And so that's when I spent $300. It was like, great, I've got 7 or 8 pans. That's all I need. Yeah. So to have one this pricey.
Aren't pans usually the wedding gift type thing where you get like 50 sets of them?
Ask for them at your wedding so you don't have to buy them, and then ask for the good stuff. So yeah.
And I didn't know about this, but Stillers has a good point. I mean, I could use a regular pan as an icebreaker and have. I didn't know this works, but apparently you can have a date night where a significant other can come over and teach you how to cook. I didn't. That
is a great idea.
See, video production and live streaming, I can do that, but like moves like that, that's smooth. That's like I need to write this down so I can remember. That might go in the show notes just to remind me later on.
This is for me. This is probably a track. I'd watch this one, see how it goes. They've got a hefty goal ahead of them. They're looking at what
$90,000, which is a little bit much. That's it's a track for me too. It's a cool idea and everything, but $90,000 is a little ambitious on there, and I'm a little curious about how these sensors work and where they are.
And it looks like they need the 45 days and the 90,000 because this to me is untapped ground. I mean, we're talking about applying heat directly to contained sensors. Their ship date is like a year plus away.
Yeah, no.
So they've got time to kind of do some. Yeah, they've got some time to plan it. Wow, they're. I don't know what to say.
You can get gold engraving on the executive chef level with $549.
I'll tell you what I love about this. I absolutely love that somebody's pushing a boundary. That somebody's looked at something and said, you know what? What if it could do this? And they're trying to make it happen. May not be the perfect fit for me because I'm comfortable with what smells good and what doesn't. Oh, that looks yummy. Let's throw some of this in. But for somebody that wants to play tech and to even be a little bit more specific in exactly what they're doing, I could see this going places.
Yeah, and you know what? I love this idea just because this is how I actually usually think of new ideas. Everybody's like, oh, let's think of something else. I've gotten to the point to, all right, can I add Bluetooth to it, and what would that improve?
And you could ask that about almost anything, right?
It might not even be the point where I'm adding Bluetooth, but that's a starting point for me. And then all the other ideas come through from that. Is like, well, if I add Bluetooth, what else could it do?
What else could it do? That's brilliant. That's all we need. You and I figure out Bluetooth, and then we'll have a project here next week.
Perfect on there. So that was the Smarty Pans. And Drew, this is an entire episode of the KickCast in the bag.
Number already. 49 down the hole.
49. We'll have to figure out something fancy to do for 50.
Yes, I'm on it. I'm thinking.
We got to think of something. If you guys have any ideas, let us know on there. Somebody's probably going to send me like, you should buy all of Kickstarter. Yeah, if I had money.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Celebrate 50 episodes
by backing 50 projects on Kickstarter, all at like $250 a pop.
Yeah. There you go. There goes our show and all of our funding.
Yep. Unfortunately, I'm not made of money, guys.
So it might be funny to do that. To do like a speed run of Kickstarter, where we just throw $1 down on every little thing that we can find.
Every little thing. Oh man. Okay. So if you guys have any ideas, send us an email, kickcast@ktdata.net on there, or you can leave it on our Facebook page, facebook.com/kickcast. You can hit the like button while you're over there too. Over there is one of the places you can vote for the third project, like the Smarty Pans one, voted by you guys out there.
We had some good projects that didn't make the cut tonight.
Yeah. Also on Twitter, you can do that there too, at KickCast or at Night20 for Drew with a K, or at Ktdata on Twitter for us personally, all with Ks. I just noticed that.
Yes.
If you want to find us on Google plus.kickcast.net. Google Plus is not dead. I live on Google Plus. Or if you want to watch live, like all the people in the chat room right now, Stillers, Cousin Jane, Rev, Winston. Am I missing anybody else? And anybody else who's watching out there, all you guys rock out there. You can join them. Our next episode is going to be September 16th. Every other Tuesday night, guys. You guys can come join. Or you can join every Tuesday night to find some kind of show recording on there. If you like cooking, you should come watch next Tuesday. Cousin Jane and I,
yes.
We have a food show now.
What did you call it? Noms.
Yeah, Noms on there. So you guys should check that out. Or if you just like seeing Drew every week, you can check him out on the Little Big Cast.
Yes, we're about ready to go into it.
So we're about to jump into it. Yeah, so which will be awesome. It's, double Drew Tuesdays for all you guys. And if you want to hear all me yelling at my system, it's always a good time too.
That's what we do.
So Drew, thank you for being here. I always enjoy it. And
yes, indeed.
I feel like every year I need to get a bigger and bigger gift for your wife for for allowing me to borrow you for this amount of time. I really feel bad.
Channel tonight, she was like, "Can we make this a 10-minute show?" She stole my account and typed that real quick because she's like, she misses me.
Yeah, so I feel bad.
So sweet.
I'm gonna chat. One of these days, it's just gonna be a truckload of like chocolates or something. I'm like, thank you for letting me borrow Drew one night a week.
That's awesome.
All right, guys. If we don't see you next week, we'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye bye.
Good night.